I don't know who this is for tonight, but I came to tell you, you didn't stumble in here by accident. You've been carrying wounds that nobody sees, smiling while you're bleeding, functioning while you're fractured. And you've been wondering, God, do you see me? Do you hear me? Will you ever fix this? And I hear the Spirit of God saying, He's not just fixing you, He's healing you. This is not a patch job. This is not a quick cover-up. This is the deep, soul-level restoration that only the great physician can do. And before this night is over, you're going to feel something breaking off you, something lifting, because God is already in the room and He's here for you. When I say God sees the wounds you hide, I'm talking about those silent injuries nobody knows about, the ones you don't post about, the ones you dress up in nice clothes and polite smiles, the ones you've learned to camouflage so well that people would never guess you're hurting. We live in a world that celebrates the highlight reel, so you've gotten good at only showing the parts of yourself that look put together. But behind closed doors, in the quiet moments, you feel the sting, the ache, the weight of what happened to you, what was said about you, or what you had to survive. Maybe it's the betrayal you never saw coming. Maybe it's the abandonment that left you questioning your worth. Maybe it's the words someone spoke over you years ago that still echo in your mind like they were spoken yesterday. And because people around you have moved on, they assume you have too. They don't see the way certain triggers still make your chest tighten or your eyes water. They don't see that sometimes when you're alone, the tears come without warning. You've become an expert at functioning while fractured, but God has not been fooled by the mask. The truth is, you can only hide from people. You can't hide from the one who knit you together in your mother's womb. He knows every scar, every secret, every shadowed corner of your heart. He's counted every tear you've cried, even the ones you tried to wipe away before anyone noticed. The wound may be invisible to the world, but it is in plain sight to God. And He's not looking at it with judgment. He's looking at it with compassion. Sometimes we think because we've learned to keep moving, God has moved on too. But the Word tells us He is close to the brokenhearted and saves those crushed in spirit. That means your pain draws Him nearer, not further away. He's not afraid of the mess or the questions or even the anger that can bubble up when healing takes longer than you hoped. He can handle your raw, unaided emotions. And even if you've convinced yourself that it's not worth bringing up anymore, that it's too old, too deep, or too complicated, God is still aware of it. We hide our wounds for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes it's shame. Sometimes it's fear of being misunderstood. Sometimes it's exhaustion from explaining yourself to people who can't or won't understand. But here's the thing, when you hide the wound, you also hide it from the very process that could heal it. Just because you've silenced it doesn't mean it's gone. It's like trying to ignore a broken bone because you don't want to wear a cast. It might stop hurting in certain positions, but it's never truly set right. God's sight is not just physical, it's intimate. He doesn't just see what happened. He sees how it made you feel. He sees how it changed the way you see yourself, how it shaped the way you interact with people, how it taught you to expect abandonment or betrayal as normal. He sees how you've built walls to keep from being hurt again, and He understands why they're there. But He also knows those walls are keeping you from the love, peace, and joy He wants to give you. It is something deeply comforting about knowing you don't have to explain yourself to God. You don't have to relive every detail for Him to understand the depth of your pain. He's been there the whole time, when you were breaking, when you were pretending, when you were numb. His awareness is not passive, it's active. He's been quietly weaving moments, relationships, and opportunities together in the background that will one day become part of your healing story. Even when you feel invisible to others, you are completely seen by Him. And not just the version of you that prays, sings, or serves, but the version that sits in silence because you don't know what to say anymore. The version that avoids certain places or conversations because they stir up too much. The version that laughs at the right moments but feels hollow inside. Every version of you is visible to God. And while people may look at your life and see strength, He sees the places that are still tender, and those places matter to him. They matter enough that he refuses to let you live the rest of your life pretending you're okay. Because to him, you're not just another face in the crowd. You are his child. He carries your story like it's the only story that matters. He doesn't just see the wound itself, he sees the ripple effects. He sees the opportunities you've turned down because you didn't feel capable. He sees the relationships you've walked away from because you couldn't risk being hurt. He sees the way you've doubted yourself, the way you've sabotaged blessings, the way you've questioned whether you even deserve good things. And he's not here to condemn you for it. He's here to address the root of it, because he knows if the wound remains hidden, the pain will keep shaping your decisions, your identity, and your faith. And he loves you too much to let a wound define what he has already redeemed. He's not just aware of your pain. He's intentional about bringing it into his light, not to expose it for shame, but to expose it for healing. And that process starts the moment you stop hiding from him, because the truth is, he's been seeing you all along. When we talk about healing, so many people expect it to be like flipping a switch, one prayer, one service, one powerful moment, and everything is instantly fixed. But the reality is that healing is a process, not a moment. God can absolutely move in an instant and change things, but more often he chooses to work layer by layer, piece by piece, moment by moment. We live in a culture that loves quick results, instant gratification, and same-day delivery. But the kind of healing God is after is not surface-level relief. It's deep, lasting restoration, and that kind of work takes time. Think about how the body works. If you cut yourself, the bleeding might stop quickly, but the skin still needs days or weeks to fully close and strengthen. Some wounds even need months before the scar tissue forms. In the same way, emotional, mental, and spiritual wounds don't just vanish because you decided you're ready to move on. God knows the depth of your hurt, and he knows that true healing isn't about rushing. It's about transforming. If he moved too quickly, he might address the symptom, but leave the root untouched. And he loves you too much to let that happen. The process can feel frustrating because we want immediate change. We pray and expect to wake up the next day feeling brand new. But sometimes, instead of removing all the pain at once, God starts by changing the way you see the pain. He starts teaching you to breathe again, to trust again, to dream again. Even while there's still some soreness in your soul, he knows that if you can walk through the process with him, you'll come out stronger than you were before the wound even happened. Part of the reason healing is a process is because it's not just about what happened to you. It's about what grew in you because of it. Trauma plants lies in your heart. Betrayal plants distrust. Loss plants fear. God doesn't just want to patch the wound. He wants to uproot every seed the enemy tried to plant there. That's why sometimes he'll take you through seasons where you revisit memories, conversations, or moments you thought you'd buried. He's not being cruel. He's guiding you through the excavation so he can replace those lies with his truth. The process also teaches dependence. If healing happened instantly every time we ask, we might be tempted to treat God like a vending machine. Press the right button and get the result. But when the process stretches over weeks, months, or even years, we learn to lean on him daily. We learn to pray not just for miracles, but for strength to endure. We learn to trust his timing instead of our deadlines. And in the waiting, we find out that his presence is the real medicine. Another reason healing takes time is because God often uses people, situations, and experiences as part of the process. You might meet someone who speaks a word that unlocks a piece of your healing. You might face a challenge that forces you to confront an old fear. You might experience moments that trigger you, not to harm you, but to show you where you're still tender so you can bring it back to him. Every step, even the hard ones, becomes part of the process he's orchestrating for your restoration. Sometimes the process doesn't look like progress. There will be days you feel strong and free, and then days you feel like you've gone backward. But just like a physical wound can itch or ache even as it's getting better, spiritual healing can have moments that feel worse before they feel better. That's not a sign you failed. It's a sign that deep work is happening. Healing isn't linear. It's a journey with ups, downs, and in-betweens, but God is constant through it all. It's important to remember that the process is not punishment. Delayed relief doesn't mean God is ignoring you. It means He's working in the hidden places, the ones you can't see yet, preparing you not only to be healed, but to be whole. Sometimes He has to address patterns you didn't even know were connected to your pain. He has to rebuild your trust, restore your confidence, and renew your faith. That takes time because He's not just working on your past, He's shaping your future. The beauty of healing being a process is that you begin to notice small victories along the way. You realize you can talk about something that once made you cry without falling apart. You see yourself forgiving someone you swore you'd never forgive. You catch yourself laughing again after a long season of numbness. These moments are not small. They are milestones, evidence that the process is working. And while the process may not look like what you expected, it is still proof that God is active in your life. Every day you choose to keep going, to keep trusting, to keep showing up is another step forward. Healing is not a straight sprint to the finish line. It's a walk with God where every step, no matter how slow, matters. Pain has purpose in God's hands. Even when it feels meaningless in the moment, we don't like pain. Our natural instinct is to avoid it, numb it, or escape it as quickly as possible. But when we bring it to God instead of running from it, He can take what was meant to destroy us and turn it into something that shapes us. Pain is one of those things that feels chaotic when you're in it, but with God's touch, it becomes a tool. It refines character, deepens empathy, strengthens faith, and aligns our hearts with what truly matters. Without Him, pain can harden you, but in His hands, it can soften you and make you more like Him. When you look through Scripture, you see this pattern over and over again. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and thrown into prison for something he didn't do. That pain felt like injustice, like loss, like wasted years. But in God's hands, those same years became the training ground for him to step into leadership and save nations from famine. David spent years running from Saul, living in caves, feeling forgotten. Yet those painful years forged in him the heart of a worshiper and the resilience of a king. Even Jesus, who endured the ultimate pain on the cross, used that suffering to bring salvation to the world. God never wastes pain when it's surrendered to Him. Pain can teach you things that comfort never could. It reveals the cracks in your foundation, not to shame you, but to show you where God wants to strengthen you. It strips away illusions about control and forces you to lean on God in ways you never had to before. Sometimes pain becomes the only language that makes us desperate enough to cry out to Him with our whole hearts. And in that desperation, we find intimacy with God that is far deeper than anything we experienced in the easy seasons. There's also a humbling effect that pain has when God is holding it. It reminds you that you're not self-sufficient, that you need His strength daily. It makes you more compassionate toward others because you understand the weight of what they might be carrying. Without those experiences, it's easy to judge people from a distance. But once you've walked through something that broke you and saw how God met you there, you begin to extend grace more freely. Your pain becomes the bridge that connects you to the brokenness of others. God can also use pain to redirect you. Sometimes we're so committed to a plan, a relationship, or an environment that isn't aligned with God's will, and the only way He can get our attention is by allowing discomfort to push us out. That loss you didn't understand at the time might have been the very thing that saved you from a worse destruction down the road. Pain doesn't mean God abandoned you. It might mean He's protecting you from something you couldn't see yet. There's a refining that happens in the middle of pain when you choose to trust God. You start to see what truly matters, and the things you thought you couldn't live without don't hold the same power over you anymore. It's like the fire that purifies gold. Pain burns away what's temporary and leaves behind what's eternal. When God is working, even the parts of your life that feel broken beyond repair can become the very parts He uses to build your testimony. The enemy's goal is to use pain to paralyze you, to convince you that you're too damaged to move forward. But in God's hands, pain doesn't paralyze. It propels. It can push you into purpose you never would have discovered otherwise. The tears you've cried become seeds of ministry. The rejection you endured becomes the fuel for your calling. And the battles you fought become proof that you were stronger with God than you ever realized. The beauty of surrendering pain to God is that it shifts the narrative. What was once a story of defeat becomes a story of redemption. What was once the source of your shame becomes the platform for your testimony. Pain in your own hands will drain you, but pain in God's hands will develop you. It will carve out depth in your spirit, clarity in your vision, and perseverance in your walk. It becomes a catalyst for growth, not because the pain itself is good, but because the God who holds it is good. Forgiveness unlocks freedom, but it rarely feels that way at first. When someone hurts you deeply, the idea of letting them off the hook can feel like betrayal to yourself, like you're saying what they did was okay. But forgiveness isn't about excusing their behavior. It's about releasing yourself from the chains that come with holding on to the offense. Unforgiveness traps you in the moment of the wound. It keeps you reliving the pain, rehearsing the details, and replaying the offense in your mind like it just happened. You may think you're punishing the other person by refusing to forgive, but more often, the only one still bleeding is you. Forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a choice. If you wait until you feel ready, you might never do it. God calls us to forgive not because it's easy, but because he knows what unforgiveness does to our hearts. It's like poison that starts small but seeps into everything. It affects your peace, your relationships, your joy, and even your physical health. Bitterness hardens your heart over time, and eventually, it doesn't just guard you from the person who hurt you. It guards you from love, trust, and hope altogether. Choosing to forgive doesn't mean you're saying what happened was fair or justified. It means you're handing the matter over to God, trusting him to be the ultimate judge and healer. It's acknowledging that vengeance belongs to him, not to you. Sometimes that means you forgive someone who never apologizes, never takes responsibility, and never changes. That's hard because our flesh wants closure, wants acknowledgement, wants payback. But forgiveness is less about them and more about your own freedom. You can't move into your next chapter if you're still chained to the hurt of the last one. There's a deep spiritual power in forgiveness because it reflects the very heart of God. We have all been forgiven for more than we could ever repay. The cross is proof that God's mercy reached for us when we didn't deserve it, and that same mercy is what he calls us to extend. That doesn't mean allowing people to keep hurting you. Boundaries are still necessary, but it does mean refusing to let resentment be the thing that writes your story. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. You replay the mistakes you made, the opportunities you missed, the seasons you wasted, and the times you let fear or pride get in the way. Self-condemnation can be just as heavy as bitterness towards someone else, but the same forgiveness God offers others is available to you. Holding yourself hostage to past failures will only keep you from stepping fully into who God has called you to be. Forgiveness is often a process. You might decide to forgive and then feel the anger rise up again when you're reminded of the hurt. That doesn't mean you failed. It means healing is still unfolding. Sometimes you have to forgive the same person for the same offense more than once in your heart until the grip of that pain loosens. It's not about pretending it didn't happen. It's about refusing to let it define you. There's also a freedom that comes from seeing the person who hurt you through God's eyes. That doesn't excuse their actions, but it gives you perspective. Hurt people hurt people. Often their behavior is rooted in their own brokenness, trauma, or sin. Understanding that doesn't make the pain vanish, but it can make forgiveness possible because you're no longer carrying the weight of trying to fix or punish them yourself. Unforgiveness ties your identity to the moment you were wronged. Forgiveness allows you to reclaim who you are apart from what happened to you. It opens the door for God to restore joy, peace, and hope in places that were once locked up. When you release the offense, you make room for his healing to flow freely in your heart. You stop living as a prisoner of what they did and start living as a recipient of what he's done. Forgiveness is an act of faith. It's trusting that God sees, God knows, and God will handle the justice in his way and in his time. It's trusting that your healing is worth more than your revenge. It's believing that your future is too important to be held hostage by your past. And it's remembering that in God's kingdom, freedom often begins the moment you let go. God restores what the enemy stole, and that truth is woven throughout the entire story of Scripture. From Genesis to Revelation, you see a God who steps into loss, devastation, and brokenness and bring what seemed gone forever. The enemy's strategy has always been to steal your peace, your joy, your hope, your identity, your relationships, your purpose. Sometimes it happens suddenly, like a violent storm you didn't see coming. And sometimes it happens gradually, little by little, until you wake up one day and realize something precious has been missing for a long time. But no matter how much has been taken, no matter how long it's been gone, God is in the business of restoration. Restoration is not the same as replacement. Replacement gives you something different. Restoration gives you back what was lost, often in a better condition than before. When God restores, He doesn't just return things to their original state. He redeems them. He rebuilds stronger, deeper, and greater than what you had before. Job is one of the clearest pictures of this in the Bible. He lost everything: his wealth, his health, his family. And yet the word says that in the end, God restored to him twice as much as he had before. That's not just recovery, that's increase. Sometimes the restoration God brings is in your heart before it's in your circumstances. Maybe the enemy stole your trust through betrayal, but God restores it by showing you His faithfulness day after day. Maybe the enemy stole your confidence through failure, but God restores it by reminding you of who you are in Him. Maybe the enemy stole your joy through years of hardship, but God restores it by awakening gratitude in places you didn't even know were numb. Restoration begins on the inside and then flows outward. The enemy wants you to believe that what's gone can never come back, that too much time has passed, that too much damage has been done. He wants you to settle for survival instead of expecting restoration. But the God who spoke creation into existence is not limited by time, resources, or human logic. He can breathe life into dry bones. He can make streams flow in the desert. He can take the ruins of your life and rebuild them into something more beautiful than you imagine. Restoration often comes through unexpected means. You might think it has to happen one way, but God might bring it through a path you never saw coming. A broken relationship might be restored through a single moment of vulnerability. A dream you thought was dead might be restored through an open door you didn't even apply for. A sense of identity might be restored through a season of stillness where God reminds you who you are apart from your performance. God has a way of weaving His restoration into moments that seem ordinary until you look back and realize they were miraculous. One of the most powerful things about God's restoration is that it often leaves you better equipped to protect what He's given you. When you've lost something valuable and then had it restored, you treat it differently. You appreciate it more deeply. You guard it more carefully. You no longer take it for granted because you know what it costs to lose it. God uses the pain of loss to prepare you for the responsibility of the blessing when it returns. Restoration doesn't always mean going back to the way things were before. Sometimes what God restores looks different because He's bringing you into something new. You may have prayed for the old to come back, but He's restoring in a way that fits the person you become in the process. The job, relationship, or dream might not look exactly like what you lost, but the joy, peace, and fulfillment it brings will be exactly what your heart needs now. The process of restoration can test your faith because there's usually a gap between the loss and the recovery. That waiting period can feel like silence from God, but it's often the season where He's working behind the scenes, aligning pieces and preparing you to receive what He's bringing. If you try to force restoration in your own strength, you may settle for something incomplete. But when you trust God's timing, you position yourself to receive the full measure of what He's planned. When God restores what the enemy stole, it's never just about you. Your restoration becomes a testimony that encourages others who are still in their season of loss. It becomes evidence that no matter how dark the valley, no matter how deep the wound, no matter how long the night, God is still a restorer. It shows the watching world that the enemy's power to take is nothing compared to God's power to give back. Your healed story will heal others. And that's one of the most powerful ways God redeems pain. The enemy wants you to believe your story is too messy, too broken, too shameful to be of any use. He whispers that if people knew the truth about what you've been through, they'd judge you or walk away. But God works differently. He takes the very parts of your story that you thought disqualified you and turns them into the very parts that connect you to others. Your scars become proof of survival, and your testimony becomes a bridge for someone else to find hope. When you've walked through pain and seen God heal you, you carry something that can't be learned from a book or a sermon alone. You carry lived experience. You know what it's like to feel hopeless. So when you speak to someone in that place, your words carry weight. You know what it's like to wrestle with doubt. So when you tell someone God is faithful, it's not theory, it's truth you've tested. People can argue with ideas, but they can't argue with a transformed life. Sharing your healed story doesn't mean you share every detail or reopen every wound. It means you allow God to use your journey as evidence that healing is possible. For someone else, hearing your story might be the moment they realize they're not alone. Isolation is one of the enemy's greatest weapons, making people believe they're the only ones going through something. But your story can shatter that lie and remind them that others have been where they are and made it through. There's also a humility in telling your healed story because it shifts the glory from you to God. It says, I couldn't have done this on my own. This isn't about my strength. It's about His. When people see what you've overcome and how you've changed, they can't help but ask how it happened. And that opens the door to point them toward the one who did the work in you. Your life becomes a living testimony that God still heals, restores, and redeems. Sometimes the healing God has done in you is exactly what someone else has been praying for. You might think you're just sharing your past, but in that moment, you're answering a prayer they prayed in private. You're giving them a glimpse of what their future could look like if they trust God with their pain. That's why the enemy fights so hard to keep you silent, because he knows your healed story is a weapon against his plans. Telling your healed story can also be part of your continued healing. Every time you speak about it from a place of wholeness, it reminds you of how far God has brought you. It reinforces the truth that you're no longer in that place. What once held you captive no longer has power over you. The more you share, the more the shame loses its grip, because you've brought it into the light where it can't control you anymore. Your story doesn't have to be dramatic to be powerful. Some of the most life-changing testimonies come from people who simply decided to trust God through an ordinary but difficult season. It might be a quiet endurance that inspires someone else to keep going. It might be a hidden struggle that you overcame that helps someone else see that God cares about even the smallest details of our lives. The power isn't in how big the struggle looks. It's in how big God showed himself in the middle of it. When you allow God to use your healed story, you join a chain reaction of healing. Someone hears your testimony and finds courage to face their own situation. Then they heal and their story reaches someone else and the cycle continues. This is how the kingdom of God spreads, not just through sermons and buildings, but through everyday people telling what God has done for them. Your healed story is more than personal history. It's ministry. It's a lifeline for someone drowning in the same waters God pulled you from. It's a light for someone lost in the same darkness you once walked through. It's living proof that God is not done, that he can take the worst moments of your life and use them for something beautiful.